Welcome back to the deep dive. We're jumping straight into what might be, well, the biggest cognitive challenge of our time, all pulled from the sources you sent us.
It really is.
I mean, you have tools like ChatGPT that give you instant answers to these incredibly complex problems.
Right.
But here's the real question, the dilemma.
Yeah.
Is that instant knowledge an upgrade for our brains? Or is it, silently turning them to mush?
It's the perfect question for a deep dive. The sources just lay this tension out so beautifully. Look, we're not here to debate if AI works.
No, of course not. It works.
It clearly does. We're here to look at the hidden cost of all that efficiency. Our mission today is to really define and dissect this idea of cognitive offloading.
Cognitive offloading.
That's the central concept. It's the strategy of, delegating the hard mental work, that crucial struggle to the machine. We have to look at AI as both a crutch and a sparring partner.
And we have some data that suggests we should probably be a little concerned.
Yeah.
Just to tease what's coming, the sources point to the findings of this massive 2025 Gerlich study.
Mm-hmm.
And it signals a quantifiable and pretty worrying decrease in fundamental mental effort among people who use AI a lot. We need to get into what they found and why it matters to you.
So let's start with the crutch, because the evidence for, let's call it cognitive decay, it's compelling and it's specific. The Gerlich study was huge.
How big are we talking?
It tracked the habits and the performance of over 600 individuals, all across different demographics. And they didn't just ask if people used AI. They measured how that use correlated with performance on critical thinking tests.
The kind that require real multi-step reasoning.
Exactly. The hard stuff.
So what was the key takeaway from that huge group?
Well, the result was
No.
participants who reported a high reliance on these generative AI tools, they scored significantly worse on those tests.
Yeah.
But here's what's more important than the score. It was the behavior. They weren't just struggling with the problem, they were skipping the struggle entirely.
Skipping the struggle.
They showed this marked avoidance of what psychologists call System 2 thinking, that slow, deliberate, effortful reasoning you need for real analysis. They were basically trading an easy, immediate result for long-term cognitive skill decay.
That distinction is so important. This isn't just like, forgetting a phone number because your smartphone has it.
No, it's a different category of problem.
Right. This is about eliminating the mental friction you need to actually build those higher order connections in your brain. You're robbing yourself of the necessary workout. The machine does the reasoning, and we forget how.
That's the strategic layer. If you constantly offload the hardest part of your job, that skill it atrophies. And we saw this in other studies too, like a follow-up analysis from an MIT study on student essay writing.
What did they find?
Researchers monitored students using AI, and they measured significantly less brain effort during the drafting process.
How do you even measure less brain effort? That sounds tricky.
Well, it involved proxies, but in some cases they actually used fMRI data, and it showed reduced activity in the parts of the brain you associate with synthesis and planning, like the prefrontal cortex.
So what does that mean in practical terms?
It means students were leaning heavily on copy-paste and just modifying the text. They were generating fewer original ideas right at the start, at the conceptual stage. They were editing AI's structure, not building their own.
That makes perfect sense. If the AI gives you the whole building, you never learn how to lay the foundation. And I know you flagged that this isn't just an academic problem. There's a Microsoft survey.
Yes, that one focused on knowledge workers,
Right.
data scientists, content strategists, people who use these large language models to process huge amounts of data.
And what was the finding there?
The key finding was that when professionals started to trust the AI's output implicitly, just believing it was accurate because it was fast,
They got complacent.
they stopped checking for common AI failures. Things like hallucinated data or just faulty logic. They just trusted it. High confidence in the tool led to cognitive complacency in the user.
Which is a huge vulnerability for any business.
It is. And the anecdotal stories back this up. We're hearing from teachers who are getting these essays that are mechanically perfect, flawless grammar, amazing vocabulary.
Yeah.
But when you quiz the student on the content, they can't explain it. They can't defend the arguments. The perfect output is there, but the human understanding is completely absent.
That really crystallizes it. The difference between having access to information and actually mastering it.
Yeah.
The knowledge just lives in the machine.
And here's the demographic warning from that Gerlich study that really gives you pause.
Okay.
Younger individuals, specifically the 17 to 25 age group, so people being fully integrated with AI during their most formative skill-building years, they relied on it the most. And they consistently registered the lowest critical thinking scores.
So the habits are forming early, right when their brain should be learning to wrestle with complexity.
Precisely.
So if the danger is this kind of cognitive laziness, where's the upside? Because the research you flagged suggests it's not all bad. How do we pivot from the crutch to the sparring partner?
And that's the hopeful part of this deep dive. The counter-argument, which is also supported by solid research, shows that AI can significantly enhance our thinking, but only when it's used as a tool for collaboration, not replacement.
So it's about freeing up our brains for bigger things.
Exactly. It handles the boring stuff, the repetitive tasks, data collation, basic drafting, and that frees up the human to focus on creative solutions and high-level problems.
So it's not about replacing thinking, it's about making our thinking more valuable. We focus our limited energy on the stuff only humans can do.
Precisely. And one powerful way to think about it is AI as a personalized tutor. You know, a human teacher has limited time, but an AI can give you instant specialized feedback on a draft or a piece of code. That feedback loop actively builds your skills.
I like that analogy, a coach. It gives you resistance where you need it to get stronger.
And this goes even further. The sources talk about using AI chatbots to simulate really complex scenarios, ethical dilemmas, historical debates, business negotiations. It forces you to interact, to analyze, to debate with the machine. It makes critical thinking an active practice.
And we forget about the input side of this.
Yeah.
Just the act of prompting an AI well that forces you to think critically before you even get an answer.
Yes.
You have to clearly define your goals, your constraints. That in itself is a high-level cognitive exercise.
It forces you to apply an analytical structure to your own thoughts. And another thing the studies show is this massive skill sharpening effect when you're tasked with reviewing AI outputs.
How so?
When you're specifically looking for biases, fixing its errors, challenging its assumptions, that process of active evaluation sharpens your own judgment way faster than if you were just working alone.
You're forced to become a really good editor. And the evidence backs this up. There was one study where students who wrote an essay by themselves first.
With no AI.
Right, zero AI. And then they used it just for refinement and editing. They showed a measurable improvement in their critical editing skills compared to the group that used AI from the start.
That initial independent effort was the key. The AI became the polish, not the foundation.
So let's ground this. What are some real-life anecdotes that show the difference between the crutch and the sparring partner?
Well, on the crutch side, the stories are pretty consistent. We heard about a student who used ChatGPT for a really complex philosophy assignment.
And got a great grade, I'm guessing.
An excellent grade. But then in class, the professor called on them to elaborate on a key point, and they told the researchers, I blanked. I couldn't defend my own ideas. The knowledge was never really his.
It is a terrifying thought, especially for a professional about to go into a big meeting. If the AI's logic falls apart, your credibility just goes with it.
And it hits technical fields, too. There was an anecdote about a coder who got, in his words, lazy at debugging because he was over-relying on AI code suggestions.
So it was giving him quick fixes.
Quick patches, exactly. But he stopped taking the time to understand the underlying problem, and that led to these subtle, hard-to-trace bugs slipping through into the final product.
Masking the symptom instead of curing the disease. Okay, but what about the positive side? The sparring partner examples.
That teacher observation we mentioned is a perfect one. The students who are told to debate arguments that were intentionally generated by AI to be flawed.
So the AI was a setup.
Right. It had logical flaws, it had biases, and the students learned to spot those fallacies faster and more accurately. The AI created a safe training ground for them to practice dismantling bad arguments.
So the task became find what's wrong instead of write what's right.
And we circle back to that MIT follow-up. The kids who wrote their essays by hand first, completely offline, and then used AI to refine, they improved so much more critically than the ones who started with it. The intentional struggle built the muscle.
That's all about intent.
It is. If you synthesize all this, the guiding principle is clear. One expert put it so simply. AI frees time for higher thinking, but only if you question it.
That says it all. It's about how you approach the tool. So, for you listening, now that we've seen the risks and the rewards, let's get practical. What are the rules we need to set for ourselves to stay sharp?
We've distilled 6 core rules from the sources. And rule number 1 is, it's non-negotiable. It's foundational. Verification.
Always.
Always verify AI output, fact-check everything, compare it against other sources, assume nothing is true just because it sounds good.
Rule 2 speaks directly to that Gerlich's study warning. Core thinking first. Use AI for brainstorming, for outlines, sure, but you have to do the core analytical thinking on your own. Solve the problem yourself before you bring in the machine.
Rule 3. Critical prompting. Don't just ask for an answer. Force the AI to argue with itself. Ask, what are the 3 best counterarguments to this solution? Or, explain this step by step and show me the weak points.
I like that. For the students listening, Rule 4 is made for you, the independent draft strategy. Write your first draft completely without AI. Get your own ideas and structure on the page first. Protect that initial struggle.
And for professionals, Rule 5. The junior assistant mindset. Treat the AI like a brilliant, super enthusiastic, but often error-prone junior assistant. You're the manager. Your job is to review its work, to edit it heavily. It is never the final authority.
And Rule 6, which is a great self-check. Spot the error.
Yeah.
Actively give yourself tasks where you're just looking for flaws in AI responses.
Yeah.
Make a game out of finding the biases, the factual mistakes. It's exercise for your critical evaluation muscle.
And we have a bonus tip that I think often gets overlooked. Build self-trust. Actively solve problems without AI just to prove to yourself that you can. The more confidence you have in your own abilities, the less you'll blindly trust the machine.
Simple, clear rules. It's all about staying in control of the process.
So as we wrap up, the core message from all the sources is this. AI is here, it's not going anywhere, it can save a ton of time and spark amazing ideas, but over-relying on it absolutely risks us losing our cognitive edge.
So the key is intentional balance. Use AI to enhance how you think, not to replace the act of thinking itself. We need to become better thinkers because of AI, not lazier ones.
And that takes effort. It means you have to educate yourself on AI biases. You have to practice questioning everything, especially those perfectly polished answers that pop up on your screen.
It really all comes back to that Gerlich study's warning for the younger generation.
Yeah.
If you're 17 to 25 right now, the habits you're building today will define how sharp your mind is for decades.
Yeah.
You have the most to gain and the most to lose.
We'll leave you with a final commitment, a simple mantra for this new age.
Think first, AI second.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into your sources. We hope this helps you navigate this changing world.
Until next time.